this was supposed to be just an unqualified blowout. I mean, the spread
walkover.
was like 17-0.
Now, mind you,
Colts were considered invincible.
Now, mind you, what was so incongruous to me is even as young as I was, I'm sitting there looking at this swashbuckler. You know, I mean, he was a swashbuckler, and he's ruling the roost. And his coach made Earl Morrall look like Bad Bunny. You know? I mean,
or maybe Sam Smith,
Weed Eubank was about, he crew cut, a little
he was
overweight, and just, nothing but business. I mean, he even made Shula look
he figured something out there that outfought Shula.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Welcome one and all. Good morning to another Defo Show with Defo on remote location, and I am here in my home location to start this Tuesday morning. We'll go right out to Atlantic City and the one and only Jeff DeForest. Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
Doing great. Although you just alluded to this latest shooting here at Michigan State, and I just flicked on the TV and I see some of the details coming out here. As such ugliness. I mean, exactly what we need. You hit it right on the head. Ron DeSantis, you are absolutely right. What we need is to put more guns on the street. Not to make light of it. I mean, it's sad that we shrug our shoulders at it. Because unfortunately, I mean, what used to be the most horrific, and you would think once, in anybody's lifetime occurrence, is now like a daily situation.
Jim Sarney said we've had 66. Again, it's only February 14th. And again, it's now the 5-year anniversary of one of the more memorable mass shootings in America. It touched us close to home here 5 years ago.
Yes.
67 already in a month and a half.
It's insane. I mean, we know the world is falling apart in that regard. But, and I know that no law necessarily is going to stop every crazy person from going out there and getting a gun and doing something like this. But do you remember that morning? I remember it very distinctly when we had to come on the air.
Yep.
I mean, every now and then you're in the sports department, and we always called it the toy department, and it's great because we're talking about things and debating things that ultimately, in a lot of situations, really have no answer. I mean, you can argue all day long who is the greatest quarterback, and if you said Joe Montana and I said Tom Brady, I don't know, does that make you a crazy person or insane? No. But it's just once in a while you have to leave the realm of what is a silly and goofy sports world that we get the chance to cover all the time and have a great time talking about. And the stark reality is, I mean, the insanity has only escalated exponentially over the last several years. And I remember just being devastated coming on. And once in a while, we had to transition into actually covering news stories, hurricanes, things like that, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And it's a very difficult and startling, push back into reality that, not everybody is having the good time that we are. And sadly, I mean, nothing has been done about this since Marjorie Stoneman Douglas or going all the way back to Columbine. I mean, yeah, I mean, this has been going on for a long time. And if anything, it's only become easier, I think, for these nutbags to get their hands on AK-47s and automatic weapons and things that really no living human being in America actually needs in order to go ahead and live their life.
Look, and I get it. We just had the Super Bowl and the NBA season's in full swing. Pitchers and catchers are coming, and the Marlins seem actually interested. Oh, your boy Sixto. It looked freaking great.
Yes.
So these are all things I'd love to talk about. I'm sorry, those that will be like, shut up and dribble. It's hard to talk about it fucking today when it is. We were on air when it happened, and you and I remember you were still in studio. And I remember looking at each other going, did this happen? Like, is this a real thing? Like, it's Douglas. Like, Douglas is like one of the top 5 schools in the country. Like, that's not a thing. And it's been 5 years since then, and it's still happening. And like, Sarney asked me, and it's interesting, I guess I am younger. He's like, did you worry about this in school? I guess I'm too old because no, we didn't. Columbine happened when I was a freshman in high school. And then it was crickets because, again, who shoots up a fucking school? And it didn't happen again. I remember VT. I remember VT being a big deal. And I feel like that was like the beginning of, all right, we're now just going to once a day have a shooting. And my biggest gripe with it is, look, there's a lot of things in life that are not easy solutions: immigration, inflation, infrastructure, education, healthcare. These aren't easy fixes. This one, as psychotic of an issue as it is an easier fix. When they had the assault weapons ban in the 90s, you didn't have these. Like, it was very clear. It's a very clear thing. And I don't know anyone that needs an assault rifle. Like, you can fight over the semantics of, it's not an AR-15, it's an AR. I don't give a shit what the name of it is. They're all the same gun, and it's actually weirdly easy to get it and make it. Like, the bump stocks, like all these things are in a world where it's so hard to stop a lot of our problems. This is an easier solution. And the fact that we don't know what to do, or we're going to make it easier, or it's mental illness, but we're not going to put money into healthcare. We're not going to make it look, I actually am one person that am open to therapy. You know how fucking expensive it is for me to have therapy? An hour to just talk about bullshit problems just to make myself feel better. I can't afford it. So I can't even imagine someone who has a real problem. Like, even with good insurance, it's not, you have to get your deductible. They make it so hard to get therapy. So don't tell me it's mental illness when you're not trying to do anything to help mental illness. Like, this isn't this impossible problem, but, well, I don't know. The NRA is giving us a lot of money, so we have to pretend like there's no solution. Like, come on.
Oh, it's insane. When I was going to school, I've said this many times throughout the years here, and it still rings true. And I still remember, when we were in PS20, it wasn't uncommon. I mean, this was a grade school. I went up to the 6th grade, and it wasn't uncommon to have 20 might have been the highest age of anybody that was in the school, because there were a few people that weren't necessarily graduating at the same rate, and matriculating their way through school like the rest of us were. But the big deal was the rumor would start to circulate. Oh, did you hear this? Danny's got a pea shooter, right? And literally, I mean, there would be concern that some kid had brought a pea shooter into school. Not a gun, not a knife, but a pea shooter. And, that was cause for alarm. And people would, react, and the principal would get involved, and all kinds of security. They'd find the guy that had a pea shooter and take it away from him, suspend them for a year. But, those were our concerns. You didn't have people coming in with AK-47 rifles and blowing away multiple people, coming into school. So, it's changed dramatically. I saw somebody who made a lot of sense the other day on TV. It was actually a congresswoman, a Florida congresswoman that I believe represents the Parkland district. Oh, yeah. And she was saying, look at the scrutiny. I mean, it may be minor in Florida also, because they kept automatically renewing my mother's license, even when she was in her late 90s, driver's license. She would get an automatic renewal for like 15 years.
She hadn't driven in a decade.
Yeah. Fortunately, she didn't have a car anymore because she had totaled the one that she had, and nobody was hurt in the accident. But, as soon as that car was no longer operable, and my mother started talking about getting another one, we said, that's not happening, Mom.
Yeah, exactly.
You're never getting behind a wheel again. But I mean, the scrutiny, even the minor scrutiny that you have to go through to get a driver's license, I mean, you have to pass a test. You have to occasionally have that license renewed. You have to show certain qualifications that you can operate a motor vehicle, at least with a road test at the beginning. And none of that is in play now in Florida when it comes to guns, which is incredible if you think about it. I mean, why would you have such regulation about driving a motor vehicle, but no regulation whatsoever about something that can do so much just crushing damage to people and society? I mean, one of the saddest things that you see is when you see interviews with people that had children that were killed in some of these school shootings, and they're still sitting there 5, 10, 15 years later looking for any kind of action on the part of legislators. And the truth is, I think we're in worse shape in that regard than we were when these shootings first started happening and then became a common occurrence.
We are. What do you mean? There's more guns now. They've become more sophisticated. They've become easier to buy. Like I growing up thought it was hard to get a gun. Like, I didn't know people that would just go, I want a gun today. It's the most hypocritical and oxymoronic outcome is, okay, we're going to have, look, Australia, and Andy brought it up here in the chat, had gun nuts. They're Australia. They're known to be crazy. It started as a penal colony, literally. And they had one mass shooting 20 years ago, and it was a horrendous shooting. They outlaw guns across the board. Like, well, I'm not even asking for that. That's the funny thing. Like those sheepish liberals. I'm not asking to get rid of your gun. Do what you want with a gun. I don't understand guns. I've never been a fan of them, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's America. You hold on to an amendment that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but fine, have your gun. But come on. Like you need every access to all types of, these are war machines. Like, come on. Like, and the point of the Second Amendment is to stop a crazy government. Believe me, your guns are stopping the fucking government. They are not only drones are better, they can shoot down the drones. So whatever they're using, your gun isn't stopping them. So it's bullshit. And it's just annoying that we have the same conversation, and then it's like, well, it's not the time. When's the time? When's the time to talk about this? You guys don't want to do anything. You want to sit here. Their whole job is to get elected, and then once they're in office, they start campaigning to get elected. It's like, when do you do your job? When do you actually govern? Like, it's just really frustrating when there's so much shit going on in this world, and this is something we can actually solve. We can at least help.
Well, it's a shame there's no unity on a lot of things when it comes to government, and it's become so divisive, it's ridiculous. But, on this, you would have to think that, maybe cooler heads would prevail, and people would actually, that are in government, would try to get together and find a viable solution. The problem is that the two factions, Democrats and Republicans, see radically different, or seeking radically different solutions, if any at all. And it seems like the prevailing wisdom now among Republicans especially is, well, let's arm everybody. This way we have a chance against the bad guys. Look, criminals are always going to find a way to get guns. That's probably true. I don't know that everybody needs to have one, including, as you alluded to, people that may be mentally ill or mentally impaired or have some kind of deep-rooted problems, in a mental state. And for them to be able to go without any kind of background check whatsoever and go out and purchase whatever they want at some gun show and then go 2 days later and blow 50 people away. Incredible. But unfortunately, we don't have the answers. And the sad truth is, Lubie, as I'm sitting here speaking about this, feeling as passionate about it as you do, at the same time, you're almost saying to yourself, okay, what else is going on today? And, literally have gotten so immune to the situation that it's just a common practice, even for the most concerned of people about what goes on in the world, to sort of just shrug their shoulders and say, okay, hey, did the Mets get anybody last night in a deal? And, for us, look, like I said, facing reality isn't always the easiest thing, but and we just try to do it in the sporting world. It shows you how unimportant a lot of the things that we talk about are in reality, as entertaining as they are. But when you really think about it, whether or not Rihanna lip-synced the halftime show and was horrible and shouldn't have grabbed her crotch, pales in comparison to the magnitude of what happened today or yesterday at Michigan State.
It's just, look, and it's funny you said that, because right underneath on all the sports sites, and I'm not even mad at them for it, because it's what we're going to do. We're going to transition out of this and talk sports.
Yeah.
It's because it's what we do. But like right underneath, Michigan State cancels athletic programs. Miami Heat lose by 6. It's right. Kansas City installed as Super Bowl favorites. Third most watched Super Bowl. I'm like, that's not incongruous at all.
It may reverse someday. LeBron goes for 58. And the sub-headline is "World comes to an end." Yeah, I mean that's kind of where we're headed, unfortunately. But at least with regard to this, but it's horrifying to think that you might go to the grocery store, or you could roll, across the street, and all of a sudden, look, people are shooting each other on I-95. That's how sad it's become, and unfortunately, the world doesn't seem to be headed in the hippy-dippy direction that I idealized about, 50 years ago. And that seems to be off the table. And now, you're just hoping that none of these horrific things end up happening to you or impacting you or your family. But sadly, they've become just part of the daily thread of any news feed, that you're surprised that there isn't a shooting on any given day, which is really an unfortunately ugly story.
Yeah, that's the point we are, where it's like, oh, thank God there wasn't one.
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned this to me, I hadn't seen it. You just start thinking, where, when, how many people. I mean, my God, what do you have to do to see this come to an end. But as Jim Sardi's pointed out, I find the number is absolutely staggering. That there have been more mass shootings than days.
Yes.
In 2023,
yes.
when supposedly we've been trying to address these problems for the last 25 years.
That's the thing. It's like it's not. Like whatever side is the one against it, it's not like it's going away and your whatever fake thoughts and prayers solution is working. It's not working. Like it's getting worse.
Really sad. And the fact that nobody really wants to get anything done about it, or nothing of any significance has been done to try and at least weed out whatever. I mean, if you stop one, it's the old thing. If you save one kid, from going south, then you've done a good job. If you could stop one of these just by having a background check, or as you said, maybe, better mental health care, obviously would be a big help, to the people that are committing these crimes. Perhaps if they had a chance to, get some counseling or whatever before, maybe one of these incidents wouldn't happen. But horrible to hear. I mean, it's terrible news to start the day out with, and unfortunately, there's just no way around it. And the sad truth is, it's going to happen again sooner than later, which is really a horrifying thought.
Yes, that's the thing is, we'll today pay homage and respect and remember the lives lost down here, literally like 5 minutes, like it's like 5-10 minutes from where I live. And we'll talk about Michigan State for like another hour, and then we'll go back to our lives, and then it'll happen again. Wash, rinse, repeat. And you look, they've had how many, and we haven't talked about any of them because we just shake our head. But it pissed me off.
3 in California in like a 3-4 day span.
This one pissed me off.
It's insane.
They all make me sad, but this one, it was like, because Sarni's like, oh my God, they just walked right in. I'm like, yes, it's a college. Like, well, how do you lock down a college? Like, I'm telling you, Florida State, and I'm not giving any hints to anyone, it's open. It's a bunch of adults, like Defo talked about, like, a week ago, learning how to live on their own and learning how to grow and learning who they are and having fun. You can't lock that down. Like, it's just a bunch of buildings it's wide open. That's the whole friggin' point of college. Like, I don't
eventually, though, if DeSantis gets elected president, it won't be the case anymore. No one will want to go. Yeah, wouldn't be able to learn a thing. It's unfortunate, Lubie. I mean, sometimes you think as I'm heading towards 72 in July, that oh my God, where did it go? And did I live my life the right way? And then you're just hoping to go out the door without having being victimized by one of these horrific incidents, or having it touch your family or somebody close to you, which obviously many people in South Florida were impacted by, 17 people were killed in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting with and then a sad result for the families as, some quirky law that was instituted in Florida prevented Nicholas Cruz, who was the shooter there, from actually getting the death penalty. Even though, I mean, he accounted for so much horror, and there was another troubled individual who might have benefited if the system hadn't failed on so many levels to recognize that this guy was a legitimate threat to do something like that.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, when I say simple, I don't mean it's one prong. I'm sure it's multi-pronged approach, but it's just weird because, like, that certain side will bring up mental health, but then they're the ones that strike down. They don't want the Affordable Care Act at all. So there's mental health, and they don't want to put more money into it. So, okay, so then you don't mean mental health. You just want to distract from the gun lobby who gives you lots of money. Even though every year now, because of these things, more and more people are waking up and donating less. The NRA has lost tons and tons of money. So it was already a small organization that actually didn't have a lot of members. It's now even smaller, but still somehow, because there's a handful or 10 different or whatever the hell the number is, people that get loads of money from them, they still rule the roost somehow. And that's what I don't understand is, look, I would love for you to focus on mental health. I think, at least in America, worldwide, but at least in America, it's a big deal because we have first world problems that we need solved and we don't have the money for it. But then on top of that, you can attack the gun situation. Sorry, assault rifles don't need to exist. Background checks should be a thing. Stern background check should be a thing. And they should look into your mental health. And issues you've had, and you shouldn't get a gun. And I don't think that's crazy to say, and I don't think that's far reaching. And it doesn't mean if you're a sane person who wants to go hunt and wants to shoot for sport and goes through the processes that you don't get a gun. Look, what the right wants with immigration, why can't we have that with a gun? They want it to be really stringent to get into this country. Okay, then it should be really stringent to get a fucking gun. Like, and that's what I don't understand. There's no consistency in the lawmaking or the law requesting. It's, we're really strong here, but no, you can't have a book on Hank Aaron or Roberto Clemente, but you can go get an AK. Like, come on. Yeah. Like, what are you doing there?
It's insane. Yeah. Well, and also, people that are going to, attain a gun for whatever legal means, or whether they want it for protection from these, crazy people. There have been instances where somebody was on the scene and actually was carrying a gun and took down some of these mass shooters. So, there's probably something to be said for that. But I don't think any real law-abiding citizen, somebody that wasn't intending to do something of a criminal nature, have any problem waiting for 7 days to get a gun. If I decided I was going to, get a weapon, which I'm not a fan of, because I don't know, I just feel like it's bad karma. Like the minute that I had a gun, something would happen where I was going to necessitate me using it, which, I'm not really inclined to point a gun at somebody and shoot it. I'd be more than willing to wait. It's not like, oh, geez, it just hit me. I have to have a gun today because I think I'm going to, be involved in one of these tragic incidents. I'd be more than happy to wait 7 days for it. Well, wouldn't you? I mean, you wait, certain periods of time for anything, that, is regulated. Now, well, why not? I mean, I would have no problem with it whatsoever. I don't think anybody that had no criminal intent would really have any problem waiting 7 days. And if it weeds out some of the people that do, or prevents them from getting their hands on a gun easily, or an automatic weapon, then maybe it does some good. But it's a shame, really, that we haven't found any solutions for this, and that unfortunately, I mean, this, as we've been saying, seems to be more than a daily occurrence, which is absolutely horrifying.
Well, and that's the thing. Look, and again, I'm not looking for the cure-all. Just action, some kind of action. Do something. Something.
At least try to address it, in some way that, makes you feel like, okay, this is a step that might help. But that doesn't seem to be, on the agenda of a lot of the people, unfortunately, that are in a position to make these kind of changes.
It's so funny because, like, of all the issues that should be bipartisan, the shooters don't go, okay, are you Republican? Or okay, are you, like, it's like they talk about with cancer. Cancer doesn't pick rich or poor or white or black. Like, it's just weird. Is it the Chris Rock joke where Chris Rock's like, nothing good happens after 2 a.m.? It's like, if you're rushing to get a gun in the next 2 hours, I mean, I don't think you're going to go hunting.
No,
there's a reason. I need to go now. Why? Hello. Like, come on.
It's crazy that you can walk into a store and without anybody looking into anything about your qualifications to handle a firearm or whatever, or what your background is, or whether or not you just got out of jail yesterday, you can go into a store and just buy a gun and go unquestioned about your way and about your business. The thing for me that really is startling, that hasn't never happened. I mean, with all the abilities to put together databases and things of that nature, you remember the Las Vegas shooting? Where the guy was, at the Mirage or something, and he just started firing into the crowd at a country concert, killed like 50 people.
Yeah, Vegas. Yep.
Okay, I mean, there was a pattern there where this guy was going into various gun stores and ammunition shops and buying outrageous amounts of ammunition over a very short span of time. And you would have to think that maybe if there was some kind of central database, and I don't know, maybe there is one that they just don't use, but that somebody would be alarmed and that would raise a red flag. Like, why is this guy all of a sudden purchasing a massive number of weapons and huge amounts of rounds of ammunition and going to different sites to do so over a short span of time? I mean, that might have been something that at least alerted authorities to, go and check on this guy and see what the hell was going on there. And, none of that happened. And it was pretty clear that, this particular shooter was, up to something that was not going to be of a common nature. It wasn't like he was buying, all these automatic weapons and hundreds and thousands of rounds of ammunition to go hunting. So, Although, sadly, it was a different type of hunting, but, you would think that that would have popped up on some law enforcement computer and said, hey, look at this. And there should be maybe people that follow that sort of thing. I mean, that activity at least can be regulated. And, maybe it prevents one of these shootings from taking place. That was over 50 people killed in that one incident alone.
Because the term terrorist in our minds only exists for people who have a tannish skin tone from a certain area of the world, they follow those people. they seem to always find them. So if you change the word terrorist to mean anyone who kills random people for no friggin' reason, then they probably could find them. Look, we've all seen the cop shows. Don't tell me our police forces, whatever the lack of money is, which is not true. We actually fund the police more than we fund almost anything but outside of war. And we're not in any active wars, by the way, yet we fund our military more than anything in the world, in the country, in the world, actually. But don't tell me, like, they can do it on fucking CSI. When you watch these shows, they're like, okay, well, let's look into what John George did. And he had gone to 6 different stores, but our police can't do it. Our FBI can't do it. Our CIA, of course they can. The funding, they don't direct it toward this because it isn't important to them, which it makes no sense because everyone has kids in schools. Everyone wants to go to the mall. That's the part that's the scariest. It used to just be this or just be that. Now it's theaters, churches, temples, malls, business offices, schools of all ages, whether it's college, middle school, elementary. There's no safe place. So that's like those that want to do that. Well, it didn't happen to me, which is stupid. That's not true. It's everyone by now. It's been every state. I would think every county. So everyone should have been touched directly by this in some way. So how can you still be head in the sand, ears and eyes covered for something that directly touched you? That's my problem. Is it was already bad. Columbine alone was enough for me for like a couple weeks at school to be freaked out. But it's now touched your direct life. So who is that callous to not? And it's rhetorical because we know who, but it's so nonsensical that we all care about money and we all care about making it big. But come on, like some things have to matter more.
Call Marco Rubio's office, see what their position is on this today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's sad, Lubie. But I mean, we don't have the answers. Obviously, your heart's in the right place, your head's in the right place, and yet this kind of frustration, unfortunately, is going to persist. And it's also, I think, a byproduct of the way people are today. Where,
yep.
I mean, even going back, when I was a kid, if you had differences with people, your first instinct wasn't necessarily, to go out, find a gun and shoot them. I mean, sure. People don't talk through problems anymore. People don't communicate anymore. And sadly, this is the reaction you get where. Even this actor that got popped there, he just got 5 years for punching a guy in a road rage incident. And sadly, the guy fell backwards, hit his head, and died.
Oh,
and this guy was convicted of some form of manslaughter. Some actor from, I think he's in Mexican, novellas.
Okay.
And I don't know. He probably was just going about his business that day. But, I mean, his first reaction, even after the incident was over, whatever happened to him, he got cut off, was to get out of the car and punch the guy in the face.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's everybody's immediate solution to things is to flip out and go into a rage all the time instead of, talking things through and, trying to work out problems. As we said, the polarized nature of even politics today. Some guy brings up that he's a Republican, and next thing you know, you're like cursing at each other. Which is if you talk at all. So, unfortunately, the world has gone in a very negative direction in a lot of different ways, and all you can do is try and live your life as best you can, and do the best you can to help others and hope that somebody, in the government eventually, tries to actually push through something that's meaningful that can help curb some of this activity. I don't know that you can stop it altogether, but it is frightening to think it's happening every day.
Well, and that's the thing. And look, when people talk about the good old days, and I know you're grateful for the time you grew up in because what kids deal with now is insane.
It was a kinder, gentler time all the way around. It really was.
It wasn't like that for everyone. And I've learned that. I've learned women and minorities don't think of the old days the same way. But even then, you grew up in a neighborhood, much like I, that was very multicultural. And even when the idea of look out for your brother, look out for your neighbor was a thing. Like the neighborhood raises a kid or whatever the hell that saying is. I remember that was a deal. Like you paid attention to the neighbors and you, not negatively, like you were together and everyone knew, okay, this kid was here doing this. Let me tell us, like there was sort of a keep a watch out for the people in your lives and the people around. And there was sort of like a sensibility of, I give a shit about my fellow human being. That it's funny in this world where we try to be quote unquote woke, which has become a negative term, which I never understand. Like a faction wants to care and then the rest of it is like, oh, fuck them. It's just weird. It's like one group's trying to care and everyone's always like, I don't give a damn. Like, as long as you're not messing with my money, I'm good. And it's like, I don't think society can really succeed that way. You know, like it's the point of society is we're in a social network and we're supposed to be together, growing and affirming and learning and maturing. And it's the total opposite. It's become so me, I, because of our world of I can get everything from my little room that I actually don't have to give a crap about any other human. That to a lot of these people, it's like a video game. Like there's no reality to it. And then that's the problem is we need to get back to reality. We need to get back to humanity. And I know you make fun of me for saying these things on a show where we have our 100 listeners and then they'll go back to their day and nothing will happen. I just don't know what else to do. Like I'll do petitions. I'll do this. It doesn't seem like there's any friggin' answer. And that's what's annoying about the whole thing.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem to be going in a good direction. That's for sure. Anyway, we won't be able to solve the problem on the show here today. I'm glad you addressed it because I feel the same level of outrage that you do, that everybody should, about these sort of things. I mean, I'm here in Atlantic City. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day here, which, in the middle of February. And plus, I mean, look, this is a day that was routinely tragic for anybody that, especially degenerate gamblers, because you know my theory. I mean, gamblers especially, and sports fans in general, are usually absolutely bereft of any feeling whatsoever for how to handle affairs of the heart. And here we are on Valentine's Day, Lubie, and you are the luckiest man on the planet because you get a complete and total free pass.
No, actually,
you don't realize what a luxury that is.
It's not a luxury. It's a weird thing. It's now 6 years, by the way, that I'm with Shirley. Isn't that crazy? Our anniversary tomorrow.
6 years?
Yeah,
Get out of here.
Years.
It seems like yesterday.
It does. So the problem is, you've met my wife. She's very strong-willed, and I like a strong woman, and that's wonderful. But I don't get passes, even on days like this, because we actually met, I think and she won't kill me because she makes fun of me for this, but either the day before or the day after Valentine's. So not only is it Valentine's, but it's also and like most people, once you get married, your old anniversary sort of goes away. No, because it's Valentine's, they combine for like a monster day where it's our 6 year / Valentine. So I said, well, you're not going to be here. Haha. And she's like, I don't give a shit. When I get back, I better have Valentine's. So I don't get away.
What do you do? I don't know. Do they sell Valentine's cards in the casino gift shop? I'm not sure.
What are you going to do? Well, you have Chef Bola, so you actually look good.
I think I'm going to skate by. I'm going to skate by with that. The reservation at Chef Bola's was key. And, you can't help but have a good time there and feel good about things. We actually ate at the Moderanos in the casino last night.
Okay.
There's a Moderanos restaurant here at Harrah's on the ground. So we had a freebie comp, which is always, very gracious of the casino hoster, because I don't know that Mustang lost enough money to even pay for the dinner.
That's
much
good,
less. A little pricey, as casino restaurants tend to be, and we figured we could actually squeeze Big Rich in, which he devoured a chicken parm, which was very good, but right down to every last drop of sauce that was on the plate. So he had a good time, and all the food was very good. I would have to say. I don't know, I don't like to rate a restaurant. This would be more of a Mayo topic here on the lunchbox. But I don't know that you can always rate a restaurant by the casino rendition of what they do.
Okay.
But you would hope that it would be, very, very similar. And they do have they have a Joe's Stone Crabs in Las Vegas. And
really?
You're thinking, could it really be the same? Moderano, also Steve Moderano, who, of course, has the famous joint there on Oakland Park Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale in A1A. And, they were always known for their attitude, and I guess still are, because when I read the reviews There was something on Let's Eat South Florida, Mayo's site there with the Sun Sentinel, which has 98,000 subscribers. And, it was a hot button topic, the treatment that you get at Moderano's
really?
from a service standpoint. And, and the reputation of the restaurant was that they didn't care if Barbara Streisand was standing outside in the rain for 3 hours. She wasn't getting a table if it wasn't her turn to get in there. And it didn't matter who you are. I mean, they treated everybody the same, and mostly, to borrow a phrase, out of maybe an inappropriate, concept, they treated everybody like shit. And that made the people want to go even more. I guess, I don't know, because like, yeah, well, I got right in, But no, the service was very, very friendly, and the people couldn't have been any more delightful in this place. I'm not sure that the food is exactly the same as what you would get in the Fort Lauderdale place, although I think they were trying to be a very, very reasonable facsimile of that. But very good, though, very good. Not quite Chef Bola's for me, but very good. So that was a good experience, and I think the Bola's thing will get me over the top. I don't know if I have to combine that with some flowers.
I was just going to ask, because I've been around you too long to not ask. I was like, are we doing chocolate? Are we doing flowers? Are we doing something so that you can make sure that she knows I did this for Valentine's? See, look at me.
Yeah, well, my problem is this. I mean, it's very difficult to get to like a regular store from these casino destinations. So short of, and I probably should have thought of this beforehand if I was any kind of, if I had any level of sensitivity in this direction, knowing that I was going to be out of town here. But I'm assuming, and you can only hope that she has done nothing of the sort either.
Oh, yeah.
So you can say, hey, look, well, we knew this was going to be our Valentine's Day, but if she hands me a card, I'm fucked.
Yeah, you are fucked.
That's it. Because it clearly would point out that I really don't care. So can I ditch my wife for the entire afternoon, though, and just sit and bet horses? I'm staring about, I don't know, at the Borgata here, which is right outside this absolutely amazing, room that we have at Harrah's. I'm looking out what would be the living room window here, straight at the Borgata. Can I spend the whole day there and then just show up for the dinner? That's the question.
So Andy, and it shows how, I thought he knew you well. He doesn't know you as well as I thought he did. Since you can't see the chat, he's like, you just DoorDash flowers. And I'm like, I don't think Defo DoorDashes.
DoorDash. The only DoorDash I'll be doing is out the door at Chef Bola's if things escalate into warfare.
She takes the knife.
I don't know. God. Valentine's Day has not necessarily been my most successful day. No. In fact, I dread it. I wish that'd be one thing I wouldn't mind seeing going away among manufactured holidays.
Yep.
Is Valentine's Day just needs to be absolutely skipped. It is the greatest time, though. I was telling Big Rich, who broke up with his girlfriend. Well, he'd only been going with her for a week, but he broke up with her right before Valentine's Day. She said that she had talked to some people in the neighborhood or that knew him, and that he suddenly suspicions had been aroused about his character, which the guy's a great guy.
He's a good dude,
the guy. Yeah.
I don't know about romantically.
Whatever he's done to women in the past, obviously, is not a parallel reputation to the way we know him just as a good guy.
Yeah.
But whatever she found out, it was enough to scare her off and cancel their Valentine's Day plans, which he was a little upset about. I said, you should never be upset about that if you're a single guy, because this is the greatest night of the year to go out and pick up chicks. It really is.
It is.
You see two women together. I mean, it says it all, right? I mean, almost everybody else, anybody that's in any kind of relationship is actually spending the evening together, unless you're in a situation like you are where your wife's out of the country. I mean, but I would have thought that was ideal. I'm sorry that you're on the hook for anything.
Yeah, I was giddy and I was stupid, and I actually said it to her, so I gave her time to actually make sure I knew I had to do something, which was annoying.
Yeah.
And that was my fault. I should have just left it alone and been like, well, you weren't here, but I said it ahead of time because I'm a dumbass. And she's like, what are you talking about? I expect Valentine's when I get back. I'm like, what? You left. That wasn't my call. I didn't tell you to leave.
Yeah. I was thinking last night about moseying over to the sports book here at Harrah's. I didn't do it. I didn't get involved in anything, but Canes with a big win, right?
Yes,
they were trailing slightly when I was watching the game. I didn't see all of it.
Yes.
So they beat North Carolina. North Carolina has really been slumping. So Jim Larinaga, at number 15 going into that game, continues to climb. They handle Louisville, which you figured they would. And I don't know what happened to North Carolina. How could North Carolina be bad? I mean, how is that possible?
I mean, they have a nice team.
I think they've lost like 5 out of 7 or something like that. I mean, and they don't appear to be anywhere close to the powerhouse that they once were.
No, they're not good. They have a nice team too. They recruited decent. Hubert Davis actually done an okay job when it comes to that, but they've fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to see that their results were so poor of late, and then I saw they were beating the Canes. It was like a 1 3-point variance, in the second half already. And I was glad the Canes pulled it out. I don't know how they did it, but they managed to do so. Your Heat just when you start to really believe in them, they fall backwards. No disgrace losing to Denver. That was a home game, correct? Heat in Denver last night as the Nuggets beat them by 4. So, they seem to be going through their ups and downs. And are we going to start to believe in the French Joe Philbin, Paul Maurice, and the Florida Panthers? Because they had a win on the road last night. I don't know that Minnesota's the greatest team. I haven't really followed them. Did they still have Devin Dubnyk in goal? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I mean, if you're going to quiz me on NHL personnel, I might really have to, go to the Google bar quite frequently.
They're only a point out of the playoffs and 2 points out of the number 1 wild card. So that's a positive.
Seem to be, trending upward though, don't they? And they seem to be doing a little bit better. Yeah. So that's a good sign. So at least the local teams. Now that we have football on the table, off the table there for a little while anyway. Although the NFL somehow manages to be, the focal point of most sports conversations, even during the off season. They've really mastered that. And I don't know what to make about the Miami Marlins. You mentioned Sixto Sanchez there. I think Jim Sarney said he had dropped like 50 pounds. Was he that 50 bad?
Pounds. Yes, he had gotten to the point where he's lost 50 pounds and looks good, but it's not like he's real thin.
Okay. Well, I mean, what you're hoping is that his arm is okay. I mean, Fernando Valenzuela had a pot belly, although, it's funny too, because when you go back and you think of athletes that you thought of, and you thought, wow, this guy is really fat for a guy that's in sports. We were talking about this the other day, where, you go back and you look and you're thinking, wow, that guy's almost svelte, right?
Yep.
By comparison to some of the guys that you see around today. But, and there were many people that fell into that category. I don't remember. I guess, they were always talking about that Sixto was not inclined to be in great shape. And so, if he had fallen that badly out of shape to the point where he lost 50 pounds and he still looks like he has some girth there, or is solidly built.
Yeah.
But you have to wonder about his arm. I don't know what happened to his arm. The guy was, he was blazing fastballs up there at 100 plus, and everybody was all excited. I still remember that exuberance that Mike Hill had when we interviewed him in spring training, the former general manager of the Marlins, and he was talking about Sixto, and I remember a smile came to his face. Yep. As if, you had just told him that, like, a young Pam Anderson was naked in his bed waiting at the hotel room. I don't know if that was, his type or whatever, but just, throwing an example out there off the top of my head.
Your face would smile.
But, it wasn't even a sheepish grin. There's a guy who was, smiling from ear to ear just at the mere mention. And he said the same thing, had the same feeling about Jazz Chisholm, who, I don't know, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with him. Does he become a superstar, or is he going to be a guy that goes out there and hits 270 for you, and has like a modest number of home runs? And some people were implying that maybe he wasn't the favorite of a guy like Miggy Rojas, who was all business, we know, and that Miggy wasn't a big fan of him trying to attract so much attention to himself.
I mean, we've talked a lot about that. I think baseball needs more of that, not less. And I appreciate Rojas. We loved Miggy. Miggy was a guy we actually were on a first name basis with. So we actually were big fans of his, and he in some way became Mr. Marlin. He was here a long time, and he actually cared about this franchise and its success on and off the field. But Chisholm is that next wave, and literally nationally. Look, he's on the cover of the freaking MLB The Show. So
I mean, very popular player.
He's known nationally, so he's a superstar everywhere but South Florida. His play isn't the issue. It's his health. If you can stay healthy, the guy has a lot of talent and a flair, which is what the Marlins need desperately. Look, everything's setting up interesting because supposedly Sixto He's been throwing bullpen sessions, and he expects to throw in the spring. Okay, so that means maybe he'll be ready for the season. Max Mayer's already throwing. And Max Mayer was supposed to be a stud. He just got freaking hurt too. Yeah. Trevor Rogers, who was great 2 years ago, fell off last year, swears that he's going to be back. And then you have Alcantara, who won the Cy Young. Plus, Cabrera was supposed to be as good as any of them. So they actually still have that young rotation that's supposed to be elite. We'll see. And they keep making these friggin' moves that baseball people like. So maybe at some point they'll actually turn into something on the field. I'm trying to be positive because at some point it's got to work out. Like we've seen the Sixers process work out, and we've seen the Astros and the Dodgers and the Cubs bullshit work out. Why not the Marlins? Like at some point, all this dumping and trading and signing, I mean, I don't know.
Franchise appears to be operating under a curse, doesn't it? Of some sort. I'm not sure what the source of the curse is.
Exactly. Loria.
It could be Jeffrey Loria and David Sampson. I mean, but we sat back and actually tried to embrace the team even when those two guys were in charge. You were just hoping that you would get some good results. I mean, they were on the precipice of maybe having something great going. But when they had all of these players that looked like they were going to be, solid pros for years to come, some of them have turned out to be that way. I'm not sure that you would have been happy to be paying Stanton $30 million a year unless you were the Yankees for the amount of production that he's delivering. I mean, injuries have really been an impediment to his career. When he's been out there, he's had his ups and downs, but certainly has shown the ability to have like superstar stature, and he had that big, how many home runs did he have? 58 home runs that one year?
59. I think he had 59 that year.
I mean, he was just absolutely fantastic. And you had Ozuna and you had Yelich and you had the Real Muto, the catcher. I mean, you had these pitching prospects and you thought, my God, I mean, this team's going to be good for a long, long time. And, none of that ever transpired as they absolutely dismantled the team, in short order and weren't able to really come back with anything. The disappointing thing that whole Derek Jeter experiment, very sadly fell flat. But this is the beautiful thing about being a baseball fan. I don't think we have as many baseball fans, as we did at one time. Although the game remains, obviously popular enough to pay these people enormous salaries. So the money's coming from somewhere. And all of these conversations about the relative health of the game in various sports always kind of wash out because you look and you go, well, then wait a minute. How do they have $50 million to pay a second baseman for 2 years who's going to hit 225 for you? So, that money obviously is being generated by some kind of fan interest, whether it's worldwide or interest in broadcasting rights or whatever. But it just seems, I don't know, they're always missing something, huh? It's a ballpark that really doesn't, kind of lend itself to, guys that have warning track power. That's for sure. And we just don't have that dynamic power hitter that seems to be such an important component for any team. I mean, you need a couple of guys that can knock the ball out of the park. And, we haven't had that since going back to when Stanton was hitting those tape measure jobs. And you had a couple of other guys, that are hitting 25, 30 home runs as well. I don't know. That these moves are going to work. I certainly applaud the whole idea that they're trying because, there was, every reason to believe that nothing was going to happen here, especially, with the departure of Jeter. But whether the moves are enough or not, I don't know. I mean, they're in a very strong division, obviously with teams. Philadelphia was in the World Series last year. Mets have done everything they can in the offseason last couple of years to try and be a really top-notch team. The Braves are always going to be good. And the Nationals have tailed off and found themselves kind of at the bottom there battling with the Marlins. But, I hope it's not a whole exercise in futility this season. And you would certainly like to see some kind of progress on this pitching staff that would give you reason to believe that or hope that, they might be together for 4 or 5 years while they were under a contract controlled by the team and actually be able to do some good, make some progress. But looking forward to it, right? I mean, pitchers and catchers, are they reporting like this week?
It's in the next week or two,
Yeah. So, and I always enjoyed it, spring training, because, as a baseball fan, you just wipe the slate clean every year. I mean, no matter how horrible your team was last year, you're thinking, okay, the Pirates are going to do it this year. For that poor steel mill worker that's been breathing in soot his entire life and is probably going to check out at 54. And the one thing he has to hang on to is hope that the Pirates will get better and, bring back the We Are Family days. And year after year, they put out a team that wins like 65 games. And then that's been the syndrome for the Marlins. Remember, the ballpark was always going to be the panacea for success.
Yep, he's going to save everything.
Right?
Yes.
Panthers got their new arena, and then they went to like 2 playoffs in 20 years. Marlins got their new stadium. They haven't done squat except make a lot of excuses and all kinds of transformations that don't seem to be of any great significance. It's always a bunch of BS. Unfortunately, whenever you get the whole deal about, well, we're going to be perennially good. That's it. We're going to be able to perpetuate championship caliber play once we get this new building. And then, the building's already obsolete before they ever sniff the playoffs.
Well, look, I usually don't buy into this. You and I both usually don't buy into this. We actually, again, I've gotten into a war with Detroit fans because the look of a coach means nothing. Like, you can be the most nerdy looking guy nowadays and be a great coach. So a coach looking like a coach usually doesn't mean anything. But I will say, and we like Mattingly, literally, like, we have clips of him making fun of me. That's how cool we were, Mattingly. He knew us, like, he knew who we were, and we really liked Mattingly. But what I'll say is, I saw Skip Schumacher the other day. I'm like, he looks like a man. Like, he looks like the dude that, like, has breathed, slept, lived baseball, and he seems no nonsense. He seems like the kind of dude that can take a bunch of young guys and go, look, we're about winning and nothing else. I heard him do an interview the other day, and I was actually impressed. I'm like, okay, this guy, he's been around the Cardinals. Like, we know we make fun of culture, but we also know the organizations that win do it for a reason, and they keep winning no matter what happens. Like, maybe Schumacher's the guy that can bring them all together. Supposedly, they have a hitting coach, and a lot of the batters, the hitters are already impressed with him. He's like already changed everyone's here and there. So I don't know what the hell the other guy was doing, but
he'll be the first guy fired, though, the hitting coach. That's the most vulnerable position in all of baseball. Yeah. I mean, you could have Charlie Lau come back from the grave. And when the team batting average is 225 and they have an anemic number of home runs, somewhere in mid-August, Lau would be the guy that they cut loose. So that's for sure. I'll say this. I actually, I was perusing channels one night a couple of weeks ago, and they had one of those Marlins magazine shows, and it was an introduction to Schumacher, the coach, or the manager now of the Marlins. And very impressive young guy. I mean, if you were going to get a young guy and give him his first shot at a managerial job, this guy certainly fits the bill. Seems to have the right kind of approach. Maybe if the team starts out 3-17, some of that luster will come off, and they kind of hopeful viewpoint that he has about what's going to happen. But it seems very credible. As a guy that is getting his first chance to manage. If you were going to replace Mattingly, maybe this is the kind of guy that can make something happen. We'll see. But obviously, he needs better personnel. Yeah. And whether or not the Marlins have really assembled that, I mean, they get the American League batting champion. Did they ever get the? I thought I read that they had gotten Gurriel from the Astros.
No, I know
that deal fell through.
It fell through. Yeah, I don't. I read something last week because when we were talking our 2 minutes of Marlins, I wanted to throw that in there when we had Jessica Blaylock on. And I'm like, let me look just in case. And they had just ended talks. So that's why I didn't bring it up.
Okay, yeah, because, I had heard nothing about, nobody ever mentions Gurriel as being one of their acquisitions. And I thought, wait a minute, did they sign this guy? I thought they did. But, nonetheless, I mean, they made a few moves. They made a few moves last year. None of them worked out. They made a few moves this year. And, you would have to think you would be more optimistic. You get a guy that was a batting champion in the American League just last year. I mean, it wasn't like it was 10 years ago, or they brought back Jay Johnstone or something to pinch hit. But we'll see. I mean, the unfortunate thing for the Marlins in the status they're in right now is they're in a division that's loaded with at least three teams that all figure to be at the top of the pack there when the season ends. So, that's going to be a little bit difficult for him. But, I'm glad we have it coming up. I'd love to be optimistic about it. As a baseball fan, I was optimistic every year. And I didn't mind rooting for a bad team. I mean, I grew up, as obviously originally a Yankee fan, but then became a Met fan when they came into existence in '62. And we loved rooting for lovable losers. But 30 years into this, I think we should be well past that stage with the Marlins.
That's what you're hoping. Look, the one thing I'll say for hope, when it comes to Hialeah Park and their boxing matches, You don't have to hope. You know,
yeah.
It's a week from this Friday, and it sucks. I'm actually going to be out of town now that I look at it, which is friggin' annoying because this card looks ridiculous. I'm going to Atlanta. I don't know. Shirley's out of town, so I figured I'd go visit my buddy in Atlanta, and I didn't even realize I wouldn't have even done it if I knew we had.
I would cancel my plans to go to Hialeah for the fights. Yeah, Frankie's got seats for you. I'm sure.
Sure.
Yeah, that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been to a boxing match in a long time, and I love it. I don't know what it is. I mean, if there was evidence that you had an afterlife, or maybe your soul had traveled. You always wonder, why was it like as like a 6-year-old I was interested in boxing? Well, what led me in that direction? And I loved everything about it, from just the whole idea of some guy with a sweatshirt on, with a hood on, in the cold in Pennsylvania, running around in the snow, getting ready for a 15-rounder. The whole thing, I mean, just turned me on. Going to the gyms and the smell and the sights, everything, blood on the wall. It was great. And when you're in a good crowd, and a really exuberant crowd, and you get competitive matches, that makes it even better. I think this Hialeah card is going to be sensational. So you're right. And there's a lot of great talent. I mean, Louis the Cubist has been the king of this, going all the way back to when he first started working as a manager with Roberto Duran. He's always had an eye for these kind of fighters that, have just absolute excellent potential, and that he can bring along with his partner, Leon Margulies now, and turn them into top-notch pros. And, these Cuban defectors that they're, always have been a reputation, as amateur fighters, and not all of them have excelled as pros, but the guys that Louis brought over here and is working with now that are going to be on this card, a lot of top-notch pros. So, and that's not the only, the only part of the card. I mean, they have many, many other highly qualified fighters going to be there, and then Rigondeaux is going to headline. So I think it's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward. I can't believe that's next Friday. Wow, it's right around the corner.
And that's the funny thing is, you came and you saw a couple of the really fun fights the last time, but the professor and I stayed to the entire card. It was ridiculous. Like, that's the only thing. A lot of the time when you have like 12 fights, you're lucky if you get 2 good fights. It was amazing. Like, one fight, we were trying to think of our favorite fight and we couldn't, because and it wasn't all names we had heard of, but the activity. That's what I look for, is because you can have big names and have a boring ass fight. I want action, and that's why I hated Money Mayweather and Canelo, because eventually they stopped fighting because they had too much to lose. I love these young guys that don't have anything to lose. Like, they just want to put on a show. And Hialeah Park is the best place for it. Like, the crowd's into it and they're yelling. It's like a soccer match. Like, it's a lot of fun. And I've been to a few different fights now, and I never had as much fun as when I'm at Hialeah Park.
Well, the other thing too about matchmaking, especially with the fighters that you're grooming, and maybe have had 10, 11 fights, or 10, 11 and 0, and they've demonstrated some ability, and then you don't necessarily want them to be in there too heavy in terms of moving way up in company, just because they've gotten off to a promising start. But it is important to match these guys with veterans that can really give them a challenge also, and maybe even win the fight. And that's what makes for great matches. And I think that's what they do in Warriors Boxing. I mean, that was always part of their program, was okay, let's test these guys a little bit, not just give them a bunch of walkovers until they're 20-0, which was a common practice in boxing for a long, long time, going back maybe 15 years or so ago. But now they'll test these guys. I mean, if they bring in a guy and he's been a seasoned veteran and maybe at the end of his career and become a trial horse, but they're real trial horses. That's the beauty of it. And so you get a lot of competitive matches, and and nobody's in there to lose. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. Plus, you get that rockin' casino going, and the crowd. It's going to be a great night. I think tickets are going fast, but there's a limited number left. So get on that at hialeahpark.com, and then probably have a more enjoyable casino experience than you would even here in Atlantic City, where while the machines are not as bad as they are at certain other local casinos in Florida, I don't see a lot of screaming going on in the casino downstairs, except maybe in horror or at the ATM machine when says, unfortunately, these funds are unavailable to you right now, or this transaction cannot be completed. Those are some of the most tragic words in degeneracy. This transaction cannot be completed at this time. I saw that pop up. Somebody was getting money in front of me the other day, and I thought, wow, that's a horrifying, smack to the face. Because what are you going to do in a place like this where you have no cash? Yeah. Go to the museum? I don't think so, yeah. Look at the boats in the marina.
Well, like Defo says, next Friday, the place to be is Halliot Park. And this gentleman will be with us back again Thursday. So enjoy the rest of your tenure at AC, and send my Valentine's regard to your lovely wife. And I wish you luck in passing off.
Yeah,
your Chef
thanks for
Bolas.
reminding me. Yeah, maybe I'll make a card. That's always looks like it came more from the heart. I'll just I'll put it on the back of the entries for Delaware Park. If she flips it over and sees that I had circled a 6-ball in the 4th race, then you know that I hadn't really put too much into it. Maybe there's a gift shop here. I'm going to have to comb the gift shop for a Valentine's Day card influx. Yeah.
Good luck.
All right, Lubie, you have a good show. You got anybody else coming up?
I'm going to have our friend Brian. You actually were looking for his name a couple weeks ago. Brian C. Mahoney from the AP is going to join me, talk a little NBA.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. He's good, man.
Yeah, he's great.
Very good. All right. Have fun. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and hopefully, everything will go well. And then I'm looking forward to talking to everybody and being back on the video on Thursday.
All right,
that'd be a lot of fun.
Enjoy your Tuesday. Have a happy Valentine's, and we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks.
I think it's going to be a great day. I really am. Optimistic about the day. All right.
Bye. I'm not. I'm glad he's optimistic. I have no hope for him. See, that's the one thing my wife and I did from dating on, was because she works such crazy hours. Why is it doing this? Doing Valentine's big, and a lot of the time it happens during the week, was hard. So we started a more simple tradition. And I've made it clear in my language that, wow, this would be an amazing tradition. And she loved the idea, thank God. So it's something we do every single year, and it keeps costs down and it keeps time down. And I don't have to run around looking like a jerk off, which is something that Defo doesn't, I guess, mind. But we do our tradition every single year, and it's great, and I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to it. I did think I was going to get off. I admit it. She's away. She's in India. She actually is flying back now, which is interesting. It's a 10-hour time difference, and she's coming back. So you gain the 10 hours, but it's still like a 20. I don't know. It's a lot of flying. So she's on her way back now, but she won't be back till tomorrow evening. So I'm like, all right, cool. We're not going to do Valentine's then. Like, you're away. And it wasn't me. I didn't send you away. I didn't go away. You went away for work. Cool. No Valentine's. And she looked at me like I was a jerk off and was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what do you mean? What am I talking about? You're going to be away. We're not going to do Valentine's if you're away. She's like, of course we're doing Valentine's. I'm like, when? You're away. I'll be back Wednesday. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, I expect Valentine's. I'm like, expect Valentine's? I'm like, you're the one that's away. So I don't know. You never get off easy. But I get off easier. We don't make these big highfalutin dinner plans because it's a pain in the ass. But what's funny with women that are like, oh, I don't care, it's a fake holiday, you still have to get them something. Like Defo always talks about the degenerate sucks at Valentine's. It's not that hard. Get some flowers, get some candy. I usually get some kind of a stuffed creature that my cat usually ends up playing with. But at least it's like, okay, I thought of you. You were there, here somewhere in the brain. So it's not that hard, but yes, you never get off unless you're single. And Defo's not wrong. Being single on Valentine's actually isn't the worst thing, because usually if you're looking for a partner, it's easier to find them on Valentine's. But someone who's happily married, I will be doing something. I hope everyone has a happy Valentine's Day and enjoys time with the person that they adore and that adores them. And those that saw from the beginning, I apologize for starting on a sad note. I just don't know what other note to start on. I mean, it's 5 years to the day since the horrific events of Marjory Stoneman Douglas. And there was a shooting yesterday at another college, and it was labeled a massacre. And they're shutting down all their events because of something that can be honed in, but isn't, because of bullshit. I don't even know. I know, and I know Visser Mama doesn't love our coarse language. I just don't know what other language to use. I'm sorry, Visser Mama and those out there. You know, I'm not a sailor, but when it comes to things like this, you know, I think we need big boy and big lady words, and it's a total garbage. And I understand being here and talking about it doesn't get anything done. I just don't know what does, because we vote saying we want stricter things. We go to the polls, getting the midterm elections that just happened. We're very clear. We want candidates, whatever side, that want change. Like the lunatic people that are far right that you're seeing on the news, they didn't win. The lunatics lost. Like, by roundly, we want change. We want to be proactive against bad things. And then the people in power saying, even though we actually are only here because of you, we don't give a shit what you think. So I don't know what else to do. I don't know. It just boggles my mind. On a day that should be about love and happiness, whatever Valentine's means to you, and it isn't a real holiday, and it is created by the marketing companies and the retail stores. However, it is here, and the symbol for it is love and happiness, and that's wonderful. It ends up every year now. Something else is going on that takes away from it, and it shouldn't. But that's the world we live in. I know you want to hear me talk sports. You don't want to hear about this, and I understand that. And I'm sorry for those of you who I brought you down, but turn on the fucking TV. It wasn't me. It was our world. And it can be a better place. And it can be a beautiful place. And it can be an amazing place. And it's a fantastic, I love this country. But the fact that we're so stubborn and so proud and so ignorant on so many things is just disgusting and stupid. So there's the diatribe. We spent a lot talking about that. We will talk more NBA. We will talk a little bit of football coming up at 8:35. We will talk with AP NBA writer, reporter Brian Mahoney. The Miami Heat did fall last night. Tough game. They were missing half the roster. They literally only had 9 guys. Their bench was comprised of like non-drafted G League players. And they almost beat a fully healthy Denver Nugget team. And they were in it to the end. So I guess you can take a moral victory from that in some form. They're sitting in the 6th spot. The Knicks are on their heels, though. And the Nets are free falling, but the Cavs aren't. So we'll talk Miami Heat with Brian Mahoney. We'll talk more about the Super Bowl, the call heard around the world that I've fought with. Even though I'm not affiliate or a Chief fan, I was on the Chiefs. I was the one person, it seemed like, over the last month that thought the Chiefs could win, let alone would win. And I was right. So I guess I have some bias in that, but I don't know. I hate refs. I'm the first one to bitch about a ref. I don't think the refs were fantastic in the game, but I think they were highly out of it. But that doesn't mean you don't throw a flag. Like that idea. Well, they haven't thrown it all game. Okay, so you'd rather them throw it? I don't get it. Like, what are you saying? So they either throw it all game and then that calls okay, or they don't throw it all game, so then that calls bad. I mean, no, it was a legitimate call. Look, I said it on Mayo Show. If they didn't throw the flag for the holding, I wouldn't have been in an uproar like the people who are in an uproar that it was thrown. I would have been like, fine. The Chiefs are still going to get their field goal. They'll have like a minute and a half up 3 to hold off an Eagles offense that had done nothing in the second half. The Eagles offense, literally the only 2 times the Eagles scored in the half were by help from the refs, actually. But like the Eagles offense hadn't killed it. So they'd have a minute and a half without timeouts, to go the length of the field and try and get a field goal, which is doable, but it wasn't an automatic. So I would have gone over it. However, when they showed the replay and the guy was held twice, and then the defensive back admits, I held him because I was hoping I could get away with it because they had been beaten all night in the red zone. Like, okay, that you had to throw the flag. I don't understand the argument here. Like, fine, they didn't have to throw it. But you said it. They didn't throw it all night. Like, they let them get away with it all night. They let him get away with it once on that play. Literally, Bradbury grabs Juju Smith-Schuster and turns him. I don't care what Philadelphia fans are saying and seeing. He turned him. He grabbed him with one arm and grabbed him with the other arm. He turned him. Okay, he turned him off his route. Somehow, Schuster got away and was beaming down the sideline, and then he tugged on the jersey. This idea of uncatchable, first of all, uncatchable has nothing to do with a hold. Uncatchable used to be pass interference, and if you notice, they call PI 10 times a game on balls that are nowhere near where the play is. So uncatchable doesn't even matter with PI anymore. So don't tell me about uncatchable. You don't know if it was catchable. He was held twice. It's a stupid thing to take away from that game. It was a great game. It was one of the best Super Bowls. Both quarterbacks played well. Jalen Hurts proved himself. Mahomes etched himself in stone as probably a top 5 quarterback ever now that he has 2 Super Bowls by the age of 26, going to 5 straight AFC championship games and being to 3 Super Bowls. Like, he's definitely a top 10 quarterback already, you would think. Like, it was a great game. It wasn't about the refs. The refs have been horrible this year, but that call, the Chiefs would have had to lead regardless, and it was a valid call. So I don't know what else, why that's the takeaway from this game. The other was the Rihanna performance, which Defo wasn't a fan of, but some people were. The speculation during it, if you looked at her, she looked like she had a baby bump. She admitted she was pregnant. My only question is, why not admit before? Like, I don't understand. I don't know. I'm not a woman, and my wife all the time gives me shit for trying to speak about women without being a woman. So I would never try to do that. I don't know what goes on in a woman's mind. I'm not one. But like, if you're going to wear an outfit, supposedly the outfit was to show you that she was pregnant. So why not just say it? Like, I don't know. I didn't get like not saying you were pregnant and having people wonder the entire, like, that's what I wonder the entire performance. I'm like, she's barely dancing. So why not just not dance? Like, there's plenty of singers, like a Barbara Streisand never danced. Like, I know Riri's known for dancing, but you're obviously not going to dance. You're pregnant and you're 100 feet in the air. Like, why not just stand there and let everyone dance around? Doing the little half leg kick with a little, like, I don't know. It looked worse. I'd rather have her do nothing, like a Kelly Clarkson, and then whatever that was. Like, I actually didn't think it was bad. Like Defo talked about yesterday. I enjoy Rihanna's music. Like, I've been a fan of hers for years. And she has like an island vibe / pop vibe, and I like both kinds of music. So I like her music. So I thought the performance was fine. I just didn't understand like, why did you wait till, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe a woman can tell me there was a reason. What's the reasoning behind waiting till after? She wore an outfit to show. She literally said, I'm going to have a special guest. And then wore this friggin' outfit that made sure you saw her baby bump. And then right after, because the whole world was like, is she pregnant? Is she pregnant? Is she pregnant? The PR people right after said, yeah, she's pregnant. Okay. So why not just say it before? So we all know, oh my God, this is amazing. She's pregnant and she's still going to go out there and do her thing. Like, there wouldn't have been any negative comments. But the problem is people didn't know. And the performance was a little, like, the outfits were weird. I still don't understand what the dancers were wearing and what the point of those outfits were. And I don't understand the point of her outfit. But again, like I said yesterday, I'm not an artist. So I don't try to understand musicians. Like Defo makes fun of, I'm the guy, the skater guy, the ice skating guy that does horse racing. I don't, because I've learned, my wife spends an hour putting on makeup and watching 6 different people show her how to do makeup. And half the time they're men. So obviously I'm missing something there. So who am I to judge or question or, I don't know. So I've learned to just, that's interesting what Bruno Mars is wearing. I don't even know what that is. So it's not, I don't worry about that stuff. I thought the music was good. The one thing I came away with was, why not just admit you're pregnant before? Like, I just don't get it. But anyways, there was a game. The Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions. Their second time in 40 years. And Jalen Hurts was probably the best player on the field until, I don't know, the second half he was okay. The Chiefs figured something out. But Mahomes is special. And we are now firmly entrenched in the NFL offseason. And coming up, we do have the NBA season going on. And at 8:35, we'll talk with Brian Mahoney of the AP. Defo did just join us. If you missed that, check it out here in our archives. Coming up at 12 o'clock, we will have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. You will get a visit from the professor, the foodie side of the professor, who, as funny as it is, as acerbic and as hysterical as he is when it comes to his sports commentaries, he's a gourmet. Mayo knows his food. The professor knows his food. He's a part owner of a tremendous establishment down here in South Florida called The Foundry. And he's a great cook. Smoke, fry, the whole thing, grill, whatever kind of meal you'd want. The professor puts it together, and he's amazing in the kitchen, and he really knows his food, and he's not too judgmental. So we're going to have him join us on the Lunchbox today. Check that out right here at 12 o'clock. Coming up next, more of me, and then some of Brian C. Mahoney of the AP talking NBA. The Defo Show with a little bit of Defo and a lot of Lubie here on South Florida Live. More next.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, highly apart.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten a sugar daddy.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All righty, welcome back to the Defo Show. We had Defo. I wanted to make sure we're getting a little bit of Defo. I know what I do is nothing like what Defo does. And I talked about it yesterday. It's not going to be. I'm not trying to. And I know he's 71 and, geez, it's soon to be 72. But from what I know, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I hope he doesn't, because what we do is really fun. And it's why we can, even though when we moved off of radio, we continue to do it because I enjoy doing this each and every day. So I do not want to get rid of him, and I'm not going to be him. So appreciate everyone that has found us with a little bit of him and a lot of me. Coming up in again in about 10 minutes, we'll talk lots of NBA as, yes, NFL's done for now. It's funny, the combine is in 2 weeks. The draft's in a couple months. So we're going to still talk lots of NFL because it's become maybe not year round, but it's become like 9 months of the year, even though the season's like the shortest season. We can talk about it leading up to it and right after it for a few months, both ends. So we'll still talk NFL. Obviously we get into the draft, even though the Dolphins don't have a first round pick. We'll talk lots of draft and the lead up to it. And Defo will mock the combine and Rich Eisen doing whatever Rich Eisen does in accordance with the combine. But yeah, we'll talk football, but the NBA is going on. It is past the halfway point in amount of games, but they haven't had the All-Star break. I think Sarno will have to clue me in. It's either this week or next week, the NBA All-Star break. And our Miami Heat are in the 6th seed, right around the play-in, right around the 5th seed. They had a tough one last night. They were missing, again, Hero and Lowry, and I think Oladipo too. They did have Bam and Butler versus a fully healthy number 1 seeded Denver Nuggets, and they went toe-to-toe. I mean, they were in that game the entire time. Butler and Bam are playing great basketball. Problem is they're not getting any help. The Heat did fall. You saw the Knicks take out the Brooklyn Nets. They were in a tough game early, and then they took out the Brooklyn Nets. The Knicks are literally half a game back of the Miami Heat. So the NBA not going the way I thought it was going to go. I thought the Cavs would be interesting, but not good, and they've been really good. I thought the Heat would be really good, and they've been okay. I thought the Knicks would be a disaster, and they've actually been pretty good. The Brunson move worked down their favor. But if they had gotten Mitchell, like I didn't think it would matter, they probably would be a top 4 seed. So the NBA season's been weird. Those who haven't tuned in yet, I'm starting to pay attention to it a little bit, as the playoffs aren't that far away, to be really honest. I think there's like 30-something games left, and the playoffs usually start in like April. So we'll talk some NBA in about 10 minutes with Brian Mahoney of the AP. Earlier in the show, we did talk about the 5-year anniversary of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragedy. It is weird to think that it's been 5 years already. Look, I think Andy's daughter was at the school. Now she's in college. Like Defo was in his 60s. You know, I was just starting to date Shirley, and now we're married. It'll be 2 years in a couple months. Like, it's funny, interesting is what I mean, to think that was 5 years ago. And what's sad even more about it is it's 5 years and nothing's been done. We literally, again, and I say we because I'm an American, had another mass shooting at another school. This time it was a college, Michigan State, yesterday. But a 43-year-old man that didn't go to the school, had no connection to the school, went into 2 different buildings and shot him up. And I'm not belittling it. I'm not trying to make it smaller. I don't know why this keeps happening. No other country has it like this. They just don't. They either get rid of guns entirely or they put strict laws on guns so this doesn't happen. And Defo said it, and a lot of people say this. I think they're wrong. This idea of, well, criminals will get the guns. No, they won't. If guns don't exist, they don't exist. They don't exist for everyone. The black market, if it's the only market, it's a lot harder to find it. You're not going to have the random dude that just wants a gun on a Tuesday getting a gun. Not everyone knows. Look, I was thinking about this the other day because marijuana has been legalized here, and I used to partake time to time. That I used to always have some kind of a guy, quote unquote. I don't have that anymore because it's been legalized or it's been structured. So if I can't go get weed, why would I be able to go get a gun? I think that's the weirdest idea that they're going to get a gun. No, they're not. They don't just get a gun in Denmark. They don't just get a gun in Sweden. They don't just get a gun in Australia, but magically in America. No, that's a straw man, which is a bullshit argument. That's not true. And the numbers dictate that that's not true. Will it end all violence? No. Some people build bombs and some people use knives. But the vast majority of our mass shootings, you don't do a mass shooting with a handgun or the same gun, the same type of gun. I'm sorry. And you can stand on whatever side of the aisle. My brother owns guns. He's very safe. My brother-in-law, with my nephews and my sister, who's against guns, owns guns. They're in safes. He's smart with them. He is all for smart, not insane, but smart gun restrictions, smart background checks, and getting rid of some kind of guns. Ken, the professor, he spent his whole life hunting his family. They would go on these hunting trips. He believes in smart gun restrictions, gun laws, and smart background checks. Look, we're a country that has it in our constitution, guns. Okay, fine. But it doesn't say anything about AKs and AR-15s and some of these, and bump stocks. I'm not a gun aficionado. I literally shot a gun once and I didn't enjoy it. And literally the noise just stressed me out and freaked me out. So I can't speak for those that it is a stress reliever. I'm sure you have your reasons and that's fine. I don't give a shit. But don't give me that bullshit that you can't stop. No, bullshit. No. Of all of our problems, this actually does have a solution. Maybe it won't be 100%, but I bet you it's a 90%. Australia literally had one freaking massacre nearly 2 decades ago, and they got rid of guns, and it's gone down 90%. When we got rid of assault rifles with the Bill Clinton, Joe Biden ban in the 90s, shootings went down drastically. So don't tell me that. You're just lying, and you're not lying to us because we know the truth. You're lying to yourself. By a large margin, 70 to 80% of American citizens want gun restrictions heightened. So it's not us. And at some point, something's got to fucking change because we've all at this point been touched by some kind of a gun shooting. Literally, we've had 67 this year alone, and it's only February 14th. So I'm not trying to get on my soapbox. I know we want to be lighthearted. Defo talks about we're in the toy department, and we are. There's a reason we're in sports. We both had chances to go into the news because there's more money there, and companies put more money into news, and neither of us liked it. It's too much. I barely watch the news. I own that. But you know what? It doesn't mean I'm turning a blind eye to reality. So I don't know. It's very annoying, very frustrating that on the eve of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas massacre, we had another massacre. And we'll have another one, and we'll have another one, because literally, Defo's not wrong. We've had 40-something days this year. We've had almost double the amount of shootings than we've had days. And how does that not bother people? I'm all sides of the aisle. I don't give a damn who or what you vote for. If this isn't bipartisan, what is? What's bipartisan? Again, the shooters don't ask what your party affiliation is. People of all backgrounds, ages, cultures, party affiliations, religious sects, all are getting gunned down. So don't tell me it's not the gun. Don't tell me bullshit. It is. They're not using knives. They're not even using bombs. They're using one weapon, and it's one type of weapon that easily can be gotten rid of, and people still can have their Second Amendment right. I know we spent way too much time on this today. I just don't think there's enough time you can spend on this. But we will transition off of this and talk some NBA. The NBA is in full swing. There was a lot of deals. I'm still waiting to see the Suns. I don't know. Because Durant, I guess, was injured, right? So I'm still waiting to see the Suns come together and see that group. People are crying them champion. We'll see. Look, they actually, of all these super teams that have been put together, they seem to have the best fit because everyone has their position, which is a positive when you're trying to put people together, but we still don't know. Like, we don't know what Paul is. Booker's been good this year, but not great. Durant's been really good, but he's been hurt the last month. So we don't know what that group's. DeAndre Ayton was sort of a head case, and he found his way the last month or so, but we still don't know what he is. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Suns are. The Mavs with Kyrie and Luka together. I don't know if they've won yet. I know they played the last 2 games together, I think, and I don't know if they've actually won. Like, they were winning with Kyrie without Luka. They inserted Luka the last 2 games, and I think they've lost. So and they're putting up good numbers, but we'll see if they actually win on the court, because Kyrie has not been the biggest help on the court or off the court the last handful of years. And we'll definitely talk some Miami Heat, as well as we're in South Florida, and the Heat are in the playoff conversation, and the Heat tried supposedly mightily to make lots of moves, and none of them happened. They're supposed to be busy in the buyout market. So we'll talk about that next Defo Show with a little bit of Defo, a lot of Lubie, right here on South Florida Live. We'll talk some NBA with Brian Mahoney of the AP next on South Florida Live.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?
Robert Klein, a pleasure. Huge fans, and been bombarded with messages and texts attesting to your brilliance and how much they have enjoyed your work over the years, and still outstanding. Thanks so much. I don't know if you have 1 second real quick.
Yeah.
The Bronx Olympics would look like what? I called a friend of mine, and I asked him if he was watching the fencing, and he said he thought that involved moving stolen merchandise. But the Bronx Olympics, so what would be the number one event?
The number one event would be the shout. Who could shout, yo, hey, yo!
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All righty, welcome back to the Defo Show. We had some Defo, now lots of Lubie here on South Florida Live. We've talked to this gentleman a lot over the years. He's a busy man, especially with the NBA giving you late nights, so we don't always get him here, but appreciate that the AP's NBA writer reporter Brian Mahoney has found time to join us this morning. Good morning, Brian. How you doing?
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. You're over there in the Northeast, so hopefully you're staying warm. It's definitely been interesting when it comes to the basketball world in the Northeast, as the Knicks have actually played pretty good basketball, and the Nets have sort of just said, we're tearing it down. What are some of your thoughts about what we've seen from the Brooklyn Nets and then also from the New York Knicks?
Well, I'd rather be the Knicks right now. I think they're stable. They're I mean, they're not the most talented team, but they like the pieces they have, and they play hard, and they don't have any drama, and that's a good thing. The Nets, they used to have two great players, ton of drama. They're going to sort of figure out what they have left now. Obviously, trading Kevin Durant, trading Kyrie Irving. They got back some good players, but none of them are great scorers. And we've seen in the two games since then, the Nets are going to be competitive, but when you got to have guys put the ball in the basket in the fourth quarter in crunch time, right now they don't have that. You probably need that to really be a real title contender.
Well, and I feel weird asking this because I actually was one from the beginning that never saw how that was going to work. But I'll ask anyways because you're there, and I'm sure you covered plenty of Brooklyn Nets games. What happened, and was there ever a chance that it was going to work, the Harden, Kyrie Irving, Durant thing, when we knew what they were going in?
I think it was. As a matter of fact, the one time when they did play together, the 2021 playoffs, they were up 2-0 on Milwaukee. They really crushed them the first two games before, Harden was hurt, and then Kyrie was hurt, and then they lose that series. But it was such a small window. Who knows what would have happened in the years afterward. I think ultimately, if I had to say what happened in my mind, it was just that, look, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving had won titles elsewhere. They didn't come to Brooklyn to win more titles. They came here for family reasons, for business reasons, to just hang out with each other. Yeah. Whatever the reasons were, it wasn't about winning titles. So you're not going to then go all in on doing the things you had to do. For Kyrie Irving, that was getting the vaccine to play in New York. For Kevin Durant, it would have been forcing, at least trying to lobby Kyrie to do it. If you can't force him, you can at least try and encourage him to do it. Unfortunately, James Harden got tired of that quickly and he wanted out.
See, that's interesting you say that because that's an honesty we didn't hear. Like they all said, and I get it when you're doing interviews, when you're on social media, you're saying all the right things. But I, who didn't think it would work, felt they actually did want to win titles. And that was a point of showing that we can work together to win titles. So the fact that you were there seeing it, that's not what they were doing. And it clearly wasn't what they were doing is very interesting. Now, do you think either of them transition back? Because Durant had that mode with the Warriors. That's why he went to Golden State. Kyrie, once upon a time with Cleveland, did have that motivation. Do you see them in their new locations? Because again, the Mavs were in the conference finals. People forget that. Like a buddy of mine was like, it was 2 years ago. I was like, no, it was last year. So you add a Kyrie, that should make them better. The Suns, 2 years ago themselves, were in the NBA finals. So adding a Durant, a lot of people, look, the betting odds are the favorite. What do you think those moves do for their new locations?
I think it's going to work out pretty well for both of them, at least in the short term. Kyrie is playing for a contract. He needs to right now play well, and he has been playing well. And by all accounts, Luka Doncic, I think, is happy to have another, great player with him. And Kevin Durant is going to be around guys now who do have that drive to win a title. Chris Paul still hasn't won one. I know he loves Devin Booker's game. I think Phoenix is going to be terrific right now. So, probably for both guys and maybe both those teams, it's going to be a pretty good situation.
What's funny is, and the Nuggets are, I think, being forgotten. And now, because people got used to them not having Murray, that they don't realize with Murray, with this Aaron Gordon, with Jokic, who's probably the best player in the NBA all around right now, outside of Giannis, like the Nuggets should be talked more about the better team in the league. But it feels like the consensus is the Bucks and the Celtics, who happen to play tonight. What are your thoughts on those two teams? Because the odds are all on the Celtics. They went and added Brogdon and didn't really give up much to a team that was in the NBA Finals and did push the Warriors to 6 games. To me, the Bucks are sort of another team that's forgotten in a sense. They won the title 2 years ago. Middleton got hurt last year. And even without Middleton, they pushed the Celtics to 7 games last season's playoffs. In that potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup tonight, what are your thoughts? Because it feels like people lean Celtics. I feel like the Bucks, with Giannis, with a healthy Middleton, and with what they put together, plus they're going to add a Jay Crowder. To me, that's the most well-rounded team in the NBA. What are your thoughts about tonight's matchup, and which way do you lean?
Well, I think you're right on everything you said. Basically, I think the Celtics are still probably the deepest team overall, and maybe the best team. But listen, since Middleton came back, Milwaukee looks like what everyone thought they were going to look like.
10 in a row.
Yeah, 10 in a row, exactly. And, we'll see what Crowder does when he starts playing for them. But, I think the most unstoppable player in the league in Giannis. So I would take either of them. I don't really know which one right now. I would say it's a better one, but I think either one certainly can win a title. And I think you're right with Denver, too. I do think they get overlooked a little bit, probably because Jokic is so great that people don't realize how great the pieces around him now, and that's a terrific team.
So we're out of South Florida, so I'm obliged to talk a little Heat. Look, they are the 6th seed, and they are only a game and a half out of the 5th seed, and it's not like the Cavs are some juggernaut. So winning a first-round series is definitely feasible. But this is a team that was one shot away from a finals, and they did bring the band back together, and they did try to make tons of moves, and they failed, which is unusual for the Heat. Usually if Riley really desperately wants to make a move, he makes it. And this offseason and this trade deadline, that was not the case. What are your thoughts on the Miami Heat? I will admit I don't see them as a contender right now, but it's interesting to see Bam finally take that step to become aggressive on both ends of the floor, to see Butler really be playing the best ball of his career. But they're not getting help from guys that we saw them get a lot of help from the last 2 postseasons. The last 2 times they were in the postseason.
Yeah, I think, Bam's been, fantastic this year. Really grown his game. You know what you're going to get from Jimmy. But I think they kind of feel like one player away. It just, it doesn't feel like Lowry has it anymore, at least on a night-to-night basis, to do what he used to do. Hero, you're going to get, obviously, a pretty good night from, but maybe one more piece and maybe they find it in the buyout market. I wouldn't rule out them still getting someone else, but they're going to be a tough out no matter what seed they are. They are the Heat. They do play as tough as anyone, but as far as being a true contender, I put them just sort of outside that range right now.
When we talk about, it's funny, I've never really focused on the buyout market, and I've heard a lot of people say this, but it feels like this year's buyout market is actually pretty strong. Like a guy like Terrence Ross is a starting caliber player, and he's going to be in the buyout. We're hearing a lot of different people in the buyout. Is there anyone in the buyout you think that could be helpful for the Miami Heat?
Well, I mean, if Westbrook is out there, I think that would be interesting. The guy plays as hard as anyone. It didn't work out in the Lakers, but that doesn't change the fact that he plays, as hard as anyone in the game, and that goes that's looked at pretty favorably in a place like Miami. So, I think if they can find some kind of point guard type player, I think that's the one piece right now that could really, change our lineup a little bit.
It's interesting you bring up, and Defo, who's not here, has always been a big Westbrook fan. Look, he's a lot of fun. Even now, what's so funny is he's been forgotten. He still is athletic, and he still, when he wants to, puts up big numbers. And that was always something he was able to do, but he never got better as a shooter. And the game evolved to where everyone on the floor, literally the big man, the guard, point guard, all need to be able to shoot at least competently. And the fact that he's never been able to do that has really hurt him. Can he fit somewhere? Because it's funny. He couldn't, coming off the bench, he gives you energy. He plays okay defense. He can get to the basket. He actually always has decent to good assist numbers. But you have all these teams needing their guards to shoot threes, which he doesn't do, whether it's Miami or somewhere else. Can he figure out a place where this way he plays fits in 2023?
Well, it is a concern that his shooting does seem to have gotten worse. It was never great, obviously, never his best skill. But, it's only a couple of years ago where he was playing at like an all NBA level when he was in Washington. It's not that long ago. He's still pass the ball, still plays at a great pace, still is a tremendous rebounder for a guard. Like there's still more positives than negatives when you overall look at it. It's just the negatives really stood out because of all the attention on that team and how poorly he fit there. But when you strip that away, there's still a lot of things to say that are better than what we have right now for a lot of teams.
So the team that is the defending champions, I'm not going to lie. I was all in on the Warriors. I thought last year was almost a fluke kind of a thing where they shouldn't even won last year. So this year they're going to be scary. Wiseman and Moody and Kuminga are just going to grow. And Clay's going to be another year removed from the surgery. And you still have Steph playing at a ridiculous level. And he showed that he can almost carry a team to a title, which he hadn't really had to do in his career. So it was like, wow, the Warriors, who have won so much, maybe even scarier. And then the season happened, and they've had a lot of injuries. And now Curry's hurt again, and Clay's been inconsistent. And Draymond's a year older and a year worse, to be brutally honest. And the young guys have not come along. Is there light at the end of the tunnel for the Warriors? Because it's so weird. A team that I thought would just run roughshod over the league is pretty much forgotten.
It doesn't feel like it's going to happen. The longer it goes on, they're early in the year. I said, okay, they'll get over this. They haven't gotten over it. And I thought sort of same as you, that the young guys would take a good step this year, and it'll allow them to not have to overuse the older guys, and it would be, but that hasn't happened. And now you're going to have to use the older guys a ton, and you're going to be playing out of a bad seed and have to win maybe 3 series on the road. So, I never would rule out the Warriors with what they have, but it's going to be hard to force yourself into picking them. That's for sure.
Okay, so before we go, and we're doing around the NBA, I'm not sure if Brian was ready for that, but I appreciate him doing this. As you can tell, Brian, we've been very football intensive, so I'm trying to transition our audience into the NBA. So I appreciate you helping me do that.
Sure thing.
What's funny is 2 of the teams that are atop the Western Conference are 2 teams. Yeah, one was good last year, and no one's still talking about them. And the other was a team that we haven't talked about since Chris Webber and Mike Bibby wore their jerseys. The Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies play as fun a brand of basketball as there is, yet no one talks about either. Either of them, I feel like, outside, I'm sure NBA circles talks about the Grizzlies because John Morant feels like he's not a human being. But the Lay fan still wants to talk Lakers and Clippers and Warriors and even Mavs, and throw the Knicks and the Nets in there. When the Kings are 3rd in the West, the Grizzlies are 2nd. And I've been waiting for the Kings to fall off, and they're not going away. And the Grizzlies seem scary. What are your thoughts on those 2 teams and their legitimacy as contenders out West?
Well, we know Memphis was a tough playoff out last year. Only you would think better this year. The Kings are a team we haven't seen. They haven't been in the playoffs in 18 years, whatever it is, 17 years. So it'll be interesting to see if they get in. But it's a great team right now. When you look at Fox and Sabonis, it's a nice mixture, and some of the shooting they have. It's interesting to see these new teams that we haven't put a ton of attention on. The problem is sort of, like you say, there's so much focus on the Lakers, how bad things are going there, and the other big market teams, you sort of lose sight of it. But I look forward to watching a lot more of Sacramento in the spring. We know what Ja can do, but the Kings just haven't been on TV a lot, and but they're an interesting lineup that is a team that there's a lot to like about them.
And we went almost 20 minutes, so there you go. Most people would have started with it. We'll finish with it. The talk about the Clippers were a favorite coming in, and they've actually played pretty well. They're a top 4 seed in the West. The Lakers have not, and they retooled. They retooled as much as anyone, literally going and getting Russell, and a guy who is a much better shooter and more of a team guy than a Russell Westbrook. They went and got Beasley, who's a nice role player. They've added some size. They've really tried to make this lineup more of a contender, at least a playoff team over a play-in team. Any thoughts on the Lakers? Because everyone loves to talk Lakers. I actually haven't. I really haven't cared about them. But LeBron is still putting up ridiculous numbers and did just set the all-time scoring record. And they did make all those moves. Will those moves mean anything? Like, what are your thoughts on the Lakers going forward? Do they have a shot to actually be interesting come playoff time?
I think if LeBron and Anthony Davis are truly healthy, I think those moves will make them the team that could get in. The moves they made were pretty good, but the problem is, is LeBron healthy enough to do this all year with his foot? Can Anthony Davis ever stay healthy enough? Because if they can't, it doesn't matter how good the pieces are around them. Those guys have to be out there. So we'll see. They at least, I think, improve. Is it going to be enough? Depends on those 2 guys, I think.
Brian, we really appreciate your time. I know you have a lot going on with nights with the NBA and mornings with your everyday life. So appreciate you finding time with us. Follow this gentleman. He is great on Twitter at Brian C. Mahoney, AP's NBA writer, reporter. Brian, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And hopefully we get to talk to you again soon.
I hope so. Thanks, Mike. Take care.
All right. Be well, Brian. Thank you. That is the one and only Brian C. Mahoney. We've been talking to him for years. This sort of a round the NBA segment there. Look, Sarni gives me crap about talking about, I don't know if we can get into lacrosse. I'm not going to lie to you, or women's high school volleyball. I'm not saying it's not important to those involved. I don't know if we're going to do that here, but we should be able to talk NBA. And we should eventually talk college, and we'll get Larinaga back on. We always have a lot of fun with Jim Larinaga. Yeah, I'm a Noel at heart, but I'm a South Florida guy, born and raised, so I always had a soft spot for the Canes. And Jim Larinaga comes on whenever we want, and he's a really enjoyable, really fun conversation. He knows his basketball, and the Canes are playing damn good basketball. They've dominated Duke. In the last week, they've dominated Duke. They've dominated Carolina. I think they dominated a downtrodden Louisville team. They play every kind of basketball you want. They can go inside. They're a little undersized, but they can still go inside. They shoot the three ball really well. They play staunch defense. They move the ball well on offense. They are not only fun, but they play good basketball. And look, Larinaga, he said it a couple years ago when they were down and people sort of mocked them. But he said, we have injuries. We have a lot of injuries, and they finally got healthy. And you saw what that meant. Last year, they made an Elite Eight run, and people thought they could get to the Final Four once they were playing great basketball in the tournament. And they're top 15. And honestly, after this week, they should be top 10. You're seeing a lot of these teams go down. You're not seeing the Canes. The Canes have played consistent basketball this entire season, and they're playing really well. So I'm glad like guys like John Rothstein, who's great with CBS Sports, are talking about them. Last night when they were there, they made sure it wasn't Carolina was a focus. It was the Canes were playing Carolina, and the Canes were the team that they kept talking about because the Miami Hurricanes are as good as any basketball in the ACC right now. And honestly, if you look around the nation, it's like there's no juggernaut. The Miami Hurricanes are as good as anyone. So good for them. Big win for the Canes last night over the perennial blue blood who is falling on hard times, North Carolina Tar Heels. We definitely will talk more about them as the days go on. Coming up at 12 p.m., we will have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, and a guy who is a Canes fan. He's not a blind Canes fan, but he is a staunch Miami Hurricane supporter. He's just an honest one. And he's as foodie as he's degenerate, self-proclaimed degenerate, but he's also a foodie. He's a gourmet. He's Mr. Cuisine outside of Mayo. And unlike Mayo, who, when you hear what he says about food and then you watch how he eats, there's a massive dichotomy. This gentleman eats as classy as his tastes are. The professor will be joining us at 12 o'clock today on Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Well, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit of Super Bowl and we'll talk a little bit of degeneracy because our shows that goes, including the Gambling Gourmet Lunchbox, it goes hand in hand. But we will talk a lot of food. He is part owner, founder of the Foundry in Pompano Beach, a great, great establishment that I've perused quite often. Yes, he hooks me up, but I also just love it. They do a great brunch on the weekends, both on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. They do a great brunch, and they have they combine a lot of what is an American cuisine, raw bar, seafood, really good pizza, great burger, amazing mahi-mahi, or old school people, dolphin sandwich. They do a lot of different things. They have a tremendous happy hour, and it's a great atmosphere out here on Atlantic Boulevard, just east of US. When we actually do trivia there tonight, right down the corridor at a place called Vega Lounge. So if you do want to check that out, we start that about 8:30, the professor and I, but the Foundry, great place to check that out. And at 12 o'clock today, one of the founders and owners of the Foundry, the professor, one of our dear friends, guy who knows his sports and knows his food, will be joining us on the Lunchbox. So stay tuned to that. Coming up next, I'll wrap things up on this Tuesday edition of the Lunchbox. We will have a Kicking It Old School Wednesday. Tony Segredo himself will join me. Thank you to Texas Roadhouse. So tune into that tomorrow from 8 to 9. And you tune into me on this Defo Show with a little Defo and a lot of Lubie right here on South Florida Live.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segredo here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
We now return to the Defo Show right here on.
All righty. I do appreciate everyone who's tuned in. I know I'm not Defo. I know I do a very different show. I know we've gone very heavy today. I know all the things that would ruin viewership and listenership. So those that did come, did join in, that did stick around, from Hall of Famers herself to Jim Sarney to anyone else in between, we do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. And Defo will again join me tomorrow morning. I'm trying to give you Defo, okay? So you're getting, he was on for over an hour today on the phone. He actually sounded good. So, and he's doing well. So Defo will join me again tomorrow morning, and we will have a Kicking It Old School Wednesday with Tony Segredo. Again, thank you to Texas Roadhouse. So I do appreciate everyone who's tuned in today. Again, at 12 o'clock, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox with the professor himself will join us. So definitely check out that. And I do wish everyone a happy, healthy, and a safe Valentine's Day. Whether you go big or you go small, I'm not Mr. Romantic, but I guess on these parts, I'm the romantic, because Mayo is getting kicked out of his ex-wife's Super Bowl dinner. And for whatever reasons, we didn't get, I don't really know what the hell happened there, but he has admitted that on air. So I don't feel bad saying it. Defo literally was hoping a reservation he made by accident on Valentine's will count for Valentine's. The professor, I don't know if he's ever even, if he even celebrates Valentine's Day. So in these parts where I guess I'm the romantic, because I'm married and we do a Valentine's. What I've learned, and now maybe my wife, as pain in my ass as she is, she's simple in these things. Do something. Ed Bernstein said it. Do something. Something's better than, obviously something better than nothing, but these people who think they have to spend thousands of dollars on Valentine's, maybe that's the partner you have. I don't know. I've never met that woman, because all the women I know are conditioned to the point where if they get anything on Valentine's, they're happy. Do something. Flowers, candy. Look, my parents have been married over 40 years, so their tradition is that, Andy joked about it, the day after is when they celebrate, because everything's half off. They're not newly married. They have freaking grandkids. They have parents who have kids who have kids. So they don't do the whole whatever. They celebrate the next day. They do dinner and chocolates and flowers the next day, because that's whatever your tradition is. And I yell at my dad about this, because my mom deserves it. Do something, whether it's a stuffed animal, it's chocolate, it's flowers, it's champagne, it's dinner, whatever it is. Like for me, we do my wife loves lobster, so I do lobster roll, lobster mac and cheese. And now with Wicked Cheesesteaks, they do everything, so I don't have to go anywhere but Wicked. So I plan on seeing Brian. Hey, Brian, I will probably be seeing you tomorrow. Do something, show your love. Yes, we should do it every day. Yes, a bullshit holiday because of marketing sucks, but it exists. And when these holidays exist, you honor them. Or you get in a fight. Don't get in a fight today. Don't get in a fight this week. You'll get in a fight next week, but put it off for a week. Go do something. It's Valentine's Day. Enjoy Valentine's Day. Appreciate it. And respect that you have a partner and you want to keep that partner and you want to keep them happy. So happy Valentine's Day, one and all. Again, check us out at 12 o'clock right here for Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, and check me out tomorrow morning. Thank you to Brian Mahoney. Thank you to Defo for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. right here on the Defo Show with Defo and Lubie on South Florida Live.
Let's go to eat a damn snack. Look what they done to my show.